All right, buckle up for a deep dive. This one's about Richard Hart.
Also known as Richard Schuler, right?
Exactly. He's kind of a legend in the crypto world.
Yeah, founded HEX, PulseChain, PulseX.
Even wrote a book, Survive, 9 Ways to Win at Life.
So we're dealing with finance, tech, self-help, all in one.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Not all sunshine and roses with this guy.
Definitely not. There's a lot of legal stuff going on right now.
Like, we've got news articles about an Interpol Red Notice.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, for tax fraud and assault.
Serious stuff.
Plus, a lawsuit from the SEC, allegations of misusing investor funds.
And then there's that whole thing about him buying a giant black diamond.
So is this guy a scammer?
Well, it kind of looks that way,
Right.
but there's another side to this story too.
Like what?
He's got tons of followers who swear by his advice.
Especially from his book.
Yep, they see him as this motivational figure, a self-made success.
It's like there are two Richard Harts.
Exactly,
Right.
the lavish spender and D, the self-help guru.
Which is precisely why we're doing this deep dive.
We need to figure out if he's legit or just a really, really good con artist.
Okay, so where do we even start?
I think those legal problems are a good place.
That Interpol Red Notice is a big deal, right?
Absolutely. It means authorities worldwide are looking for him.
And they don't just hand those out for nothing.
Nope. And it's not just the tax evasion either.
What else?
He's also accused of assaulting a minor.
Seriously?
Yeah, a 16-year-old.
And how's Hart responding to all this?
Denial all the way.
Saying it's a conspiracy.
Yep, even did a YouTube interview about it.
But get this.
What?
After that Red Notice came out, the price of his HEX token went up.
Like people were buying more.
30% increase.
That's wild.
It's like they're completely ignoring the accusations.
Or maybe they believe in him that much.
It's kind of scary, that kind of loyalty.
Yeah, no, right?
So on one hand, serious charges.
And on the other, die-hard fans.
It's a tough puzzle to solve.
Totally, but that's what makes this so interesting, right?
Okay, so let's dig into that SEC lawsuit.
Sure, what do you want him?
They're saying he did some shady stuff with investor money, right?
Yeah, essentially they claim he raised over $1 billion through unregistered securities offerings.
Okay, unregistered securities, what's that in plain English?
It means his crypto platforms weren't registered with the SEC the way they should have been.
And that's bad because...
Because investors might not have had all the info they needed to make smart decisions.
So they were investing blindly.
Potentially, yeah.
And what about those promises of crazy returns?
The SEC says that was all made up to lure people in.
And they're saying he was spending that investor money on himself?
Yep. Luxury cars, watches, even that black diamond we talked about.
But Hart's denying everything.
Absolutely. He's got a whole section on his website saying HEX is not a scam.
So it's the SEC's word against his.
For now, yeah.
And he's been pretty good at dodging everyone so far.
The Finnish authorities can't find him, and the SEC can't serve him with a subpoena.
It's like he vanished.
And he's even arguing that U.S. courts don't have any power over him.
It's all very suspicious.
Definitely raises some eyebrows.
To understand this guy, we need to go back to the beginning.
Back to his roots.
From what I've read, he didn't exactly grow up rich.
No, he talks about being poor, facing a lot of challenges early on.
Struggling with addiction too, right?
Yeah, he's been pretty open about that in his earlier work.
I even saw this weird video on his website of him installing a bidet for his mom.
A bidet.
Yeah, I thought it was a little strange.
Maybe it's a way to make him seem more down to earth.
Like relatable, despite all the diamonds and fancy cars.
Could be. It definitely makes you wonder.
So how did he go from those humble beginnings to, well, this?
It wasn't a straight shot, that's for sure.
What did he do?
Started with a car stereo business. Sold newspapers, worked in mortgage marketing, online marketing.
Sounds like he was always hustling.
Always looking for the next big thing.
And then he found Bitcoin.
He was early to the game, promoting it on Reddit and stuff.
Way ahead of the curve.
But then he took it a step further.
How?
He created his own cryptocurrency, HEX.
And that's when things really took off.
Yep. Marketed it as a high-yield investment, got a lot of attention.
Made him a ton of money.
And that's when he wrote Survive.
Solidifying that guru image.
Exactly.
But is he actually trying to help people?
Or is it all just part of a bigger scheme?
The line's pretty blurry.
Definitely.
So we've got the backstory, the controversies.
And the big question.
Visionary or villain?
To get closer to an answer, we have to look at his own words.
He's given a lot of interviews, written a ton online.
There are tons of quotes out there attributed to him.
And those can be pretty revealing.
Absolutely. They can give us a peek into his mind, his motivations.
So let's dive into some of those quotes and see what they tell us.
Okay, I like this one. Life is too short to waste time on things that don't matter.
Straightforward, but there's a certain intensity to it.
Like an urgency, a
Yeah.
need to be efficient.
Makes sense, considering how quickly he jumps from one thing to the next.
And this one ties into that. In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility.
He's big on personal responsibility.
Like success comes from your own efforts, nobody else's.
But that can be a slippery slope, can it?
How so?
Thinking you're above the rules, not accountable to anyone.
It's a good point.
Okay, here's a classic. If you don't own your key, you don't own your Bitcoin.
That's Crypto 101.
The idea of total control over your digital assets.
And it aligns perfectly with that whole individual empowerment thing.
Here's another one. The blockchain is more secure than any other existing system because it is based on math rather than people.
He's basically saying humans can't be trusted.
But math can.
In his view, yes.
Interesting.
Interesting.
And this quote kind of builds on that. The future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made.
I like that one. It's about taking charge, shaping your own destiny.
Sounds very entrepreneurial.
But it also makes you wonder what kind of future HCS trying to create.
And who benefits most from it?
Exactly.
All right, this one's more about his personality. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page.
So it's important to explore, to have new experiences.
Don't get stuck in a rut.
Right. But exploration can be risky, especially when it comes to other people's money.
True.
This one's more pragmatic. It is precisely better to be approximately right than precisely wrong.
So being a little bit wrong is okay.
As long as you're generally on the right track
He seems very focused on results.
and not afraid to make mistakes along the way.
Now this quote's a bit strange. I'm not a visionary or a genius. I'm just a normal guy who had an idea and didn't give up.
Sounds a bit humble, but is it genuine?
It's like he's downplaying his intelligence.
Maybe trying to make himself seem less threatening.
It's kind of brilliant,
Like
actually.
that.
If you're just an average guy, it's harder to accuse you of being a criminal mastermind.
You're right. That's pretty clever.
Okay, here's another one about his drive. The only thing that is impossible is impossibility itself.
Very motivational, very anything is possible.
Definitely resonates with his followers.
And this one's directly about investing. If you don't have skin in the game, you're not going to win.
So no risk, no reward.
You have to put yourself on the line, take a chance.
He definitely believes that.
But again, whose skin are we talking about? His or his investors?
Okay, this one's a bit more thought-provoking. You can't keep doing the same things and expect different results.
Innovate or die, right?
Adapt to the times.
Especially in the world of crypto, things change so fast.
And this one sums up his entrepreneurial spirit perfectly. I'm not in the business of predicting the future. I'm in the business of making the future.
Whoa, that's ambitious.
He wants to shape the world, not just be a part of it.
And that's intoxicating for a lot of people.
It's easy to get swept up in that kind of energy.
Oh.
All right, here's a fun one. It is better to be a little crazy and happy than to be normal and miserable.
Embracing the unconventional,
Thinking outside the box.
a little bit of a mad scientist vibe, maybe.
But being eccentric doesn't excuse illegal behavior.
Of course not.
Back to reality with this quote. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed,
True. Opportunities aren't the same for everyone.
especially in tech and finance.
He seems to think blockchain can level the playing field.
But again, do his actions match his words?
That's the thing.
Okay, last one for now. When you are 6 years old, you want a Monopoly. When you are 16 years old, you want a Porsche. When you are 36 years old, you want monopoly control over Porsche.
Ha! That's funny.
It's also a bit telling, don't you think?
How so?
It shows a desire for control, dominance, not just wealth or status.
He wants to be in charge.
Calling the shots.
That kind of ambition can be dangerous.
Especially if it comes at the expense of others.
Absolutely.
So where do we stand with Richard Hart?
He's complex, contradictory, driven, ambitious.
And potentially a criminal.
We've seen evidence that points in both directions.
To figure this out, we need to keep digging.
Analyze those accusations, look at the evidence from both sides.
And we can't forget about the context.
The wild west of crypto, full of opportunities and scams.
Stay tuned. We've got a lot more to uncover.
This is just the beginning. Okay, so we left off talking about the legal stuff.
Yeah, that SEC lawsuit is pretty serious.
Super serious. They're really going after him.
What exactly are they accusing him of?
Well, the big thing is violating securities laws by raising money for HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX without registering them as securities.
So those platforms, even though he called them crypto, the SEC says they were more like traditional investments.
Right, like stocks or bonds, and he should have registered them but didn't.
And that means investors were missing key info.
Exactly, stuff they need to make informed choices about their money.
Like what kind of info?
So when companies offer investments, they got to file a big old registration with the SEC, lays everything out, the business, financials, risks, all that.
So hard skip that step.
Seems that way, yeah.
Pretty risky for investors.
For sure. And the SEC also says he made misleading claims about returns, especially with HEX.
Like promising crazy profits that were never going to happen.
Yep, classic pump and dump tactic.
And then there's the whole issue of him spending investor funds.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
What's the SEC saying about that?
They're alleging he funneled millions from investor accounts into his own, then used it for personal stuff.
Like the cars and watches and that huge diamond?
Exactly. The SEC is painting a picture of him living the high life on other people's money.
If they prove that, he's in big trouble.
No doubt.
But he's denying everything.
Oh yeah, completely denying it. Says the SEC's case is baseless and they're overreaching.
He even tried to get the whole case dismissed?
He did. Said U.S. courts have no power over him because his businesses aren't based in the U.S.
Jurisdictional argument.
Exactly.
So it's a legal battle. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yep. Could be interesting.
And it's not just the U.S., right? Finland's after him, too.
Oh, yeah. I can't forget about Finland.
What's going on over there?
They issued a remand order back in 2023 accusing him of tax evasion. Big time.
Like, how much are we talking?
Sources in Finland are saying hundreds of millions of euros.
Oh.
Plus, they're looking into assault allegations, too.
Against that 16-year-old.
The same one.
So he's got the SEC, Finland, potentially more coming after him.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
And to top it all off, he's gone MIA.
Vanished.
Nobody knows where he is.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Totally. It's like something out of a movie.
It really is. And the stakes are huge, not just for Hart, but for crypto as a whole.
How so?
This case could change how crypto's regulated, could lead to stricter rules, more oversight.
Or it could scare off innovation.
That's the other side of the coin.
So it's a big deal, and it all comes back to that question. Visionary or villain?
We need to look at everything. The accusations, the evidence, what his supporters are saying, his critics too.
It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces.
And we can't forget the context.
The Wild West of crypto.
Right, exactly. Anything goes in that world.
So where do we go from here?
Well, we've laid out the groundwork. Now it's time to put it all together.
Make sense of this whole mess.
See if we can figure out who Richard Hart really is.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so we've been through the ringer with Richard Hart.
The legal battles, the lifestyle, the followers, the critics. It's a lot.
It's crazy how people feel so strongly about him.
Yeah, some think he's a genius. Others think he's a straight-up con man.
It's almost like he's two different people.
Maybe he is, or maybe it's all part of the same persona.
So how do we make sense of it all?
It's tough. There's evidence that makes him look pretty bad. The spending, the accusations running from the authorities.
It's hard to ignore that stuff.
For sure, but then there's his philosophy, his words, the people who believe in him.
And we can't forget, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet.
Right. Innocent until proven guilty.
But even if he's never found guilty in a court of law, there's still stuff that's hard to explain.
Yeah, like his marketing tactics. Some say it was all hype and empty promises.
Preying on people's desire to get rich quick.
Definitely some of that going on. And remember that claim about ATX being the highest appreciating asset ever?
Yeah, that raised a lot of eyebrows.
A lot of experts were skeptical, to say the least.
And even his self-help stuff. Some people say it's just another way to manipulate people.
Build a cult of personality, make them less likely to question his actions.
That's a scary thought.
It is, but it happens all the time. People get caught up in the charisma and lose sight of reality.
So we're left with more questions than answers.
It seems that way, yeah.
Can you really separate the good from the bad? The innovation from the exploitation?
Honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. Everyone has to decide for themselves what they believe about Richard Hart.
It's a reminder that the crypto world is still so new, so unregulated.
The Wild West, we've said it before.
There's so much potential, but so much risk, too.
People need to be careful, do their research.
Not get swept up in the hype.
Exactly. Hart's story is a perfect example of that. It's a cautionary tale.
It shows how powerful charisma can be.
And how easily people can be misled.
So what's the takeaway here?
I think it's about being critical, being skeptical, not taking things at face value.
Especially when it comes to your money.
Absolutely. Do your research, ask questions, and be wary of promises that sound too good to be true.
Good advice.
Richard Hart's story is far from over. We'll see how the legal stuff plays out.
But one thing's for sure, he's made a huge impact on the crypto world, for better or worse.
His legacy will be debated for years to come.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning.
But stay vigilant out there.
And always remember, not all that glitters is gold.